The holographic display of the UES Defiant rotated slowly in the center of the grand conference chamber of Nexus Prime, its bulky, asymmetrical form drawing barely concealed smirks from the alien delegates. Commander Jake Harrison stood beside the projection, jaw tight, watching the reactions of the 20 different species gathered for Earth's formal petition to join the Galactic Alliance. Unlike the sleek, crystalline ships of the Zephyrian Empire that dominated the Alliance, the Defiant looked crude, almost primitive, its hull pockmarked with irregular protrusions, its design seemingly haphazard. Harrison knew better. Every apparent imperfection, every seemingly random bulge housed technological marvels that Earth's engineers had spent decades perfecting. Ambassador Lisa Morgan stepped forward, her diplomatic uniform pristine against the backdrop of alien finery. Honorable representatives of the Galactic Alliance, we come before you as equals, offering friendship and cooperation. Earth has achieved faster-than-light capability and established our first extrasolar colonies. We meet all criteria for membership as an independent sovereign entity. The chamber fell silent as Supreme Admiral Vexathari of the Zephyrian Empire rose from his seat at the head of the council. His translucent blue skin rippled with bioluminescent patterns that signaled amusement to those familiar with his species. Ambassador Morgan, Vexathari's voice resonated through the chamber's acoustics. Your enthusiasm is charming. However, the Alliance has concerns about admitting such a young species so quickly. He gestured toward the hologram of the Defiant. This vessel you've brought to our doorstep, your proudest achievement, I presume, would be considered outdated salvage by our standards. Harrison felt his hands clench into fists, but maintained his composure. Admiral Carl Peterson, Earth's military representative, placed a cautionary hand on his shoulder. The technological gap between your civilization and the established members is vast. Vexathari continued. Rather than full membership, we propose that Earth becomes a protectorate of the Zephyrian Empire. We would guide your development, provide technological assistance, and ensure your protection. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Ambassador Morgan's expression remained neutral, but Harrison could see the tension in her shoulders. With all due respect, Admiral, Morgan replied, Earth did not venture into the stars to surrender its sovereignty. We seek partnership, not patronage. Vexathari's bioluminescence flashed in patterns that translated to condescension. You misunderstand, Ambassador. This is not a negotiation. The Council has already reached a consensus. We reject your offer, Morgan stated firmly. Earth will retain its independence. The Supreme Admiral's demeanor shifted, his skin darkening to deep indigo. You are radical dreamers with delusions of grandeur. We will watch your precious Defiant crumble when faced with the realities of interstellar politics. As he spoke, Harrison noticed several Zephyrian officers exchanging glances, their hand movements subtle but deliberate. The commander's military training triggered an alarm in his mind. They were communicating tactical information. This meeting is adjourned, Vexathari declared. Earth's petition is denied. Return to your homeworld and reconsider our generous offer before it expires. As the Earth delegation was escorted from the chamber, Admiral Peterson received an encrypted message on his neural interface. His expression remained unchanged, but he subtly guided Harrison and Morgan away from their Zephyrian escorts. We have a situation, Peterson whispered, once they were alone in the Earth diplomatic shuttle. Intelligence has detected Zephyrian fleet movements near the Kepler 442 system, directly along our return path. An ambush? Harrison asked. Peterson nodded grimly. They intend to make an example of us. The Supreme Command believes the Zephyrians will attempt to disable or destroy the Defiant as we pass through the system. Ambassador Morgan's diplomatic mask finally cracked. They can't be serious. An unprovoked attack would violate every principle of the Alliance Charter. They'll claim it was a misunderstanding or a security operation gone wrong, Peterson replied. By the time any investigation concludes, Earth will be pressured into accepting protectorate status out of fear. Harrison studied the tactical display showing the position of the Zephyrian warships. How many vessels? 12, Peterson said, including 2 Stellar-class destroyers. Morgan paled. We should alert the Alliance Council immediately. And tell them what? Peterson countered. That we have suspicions? The Zephyrians control half the Council. They'd dismiss our concerns as paranoia from a primitive species. Harrison's eyes remained fixed on the display. We don't need the Council. The Defiant can handle this. Morgan and Peterson turned to him with identical expressions of disbelief. Commander, Morgan began, the Defiant is an experimental prototype. It's never seen actual combat. And it's 1 ship against 12, Peterson added. A slow smile spread across Harrison's face. That's exactly what they're counting on. Admiral. They expect us to run or surrender. They don't understand what the Defiant is capable of. He tapped his neural interface, establishing a secure connection to the ship. Captain Rodriguez, we have a change of plans. Prepare the Defiant for combat operations. 3 hours later, the Earth delegation arrived at their temporary quarters on the outskirts of Nexus Prime. While Ambassador Morgan continued formal diplomatic protests through official channels, Harrison and Peterson joined a secure holographic conference with the Defiant's command crew. Captain Amy Rodriguez's hologram stood at the center of the room, surrounded by her senior officers. Intelligence confirms the Zephyrian trap, she reported. Lieutenant Tucker has intercepted coded transmissions from Nexus Prime to the Zephyrian fleet in Kepler 442. Lieutenant Ben Tucker, the ship's intelligence officer, stepped forward. His youthful face contrasted with the intensity in his eyes. They know our exact route and expected arrival time. The Zephyrian fleet is positioned to intercept us the moment we exit FTL. Options, Peterson asked. Standard protocol would be to plot a new course home, avoiding Kepler entirely. Rodriguez replied, but that would add 3 weeks to our journey, and Earth would appear weak. Harrison nodded. And the alternative? Captain Rodriguez's hologram smiled. We give them exactly what they don't expect. We'll drop out of FTL right in the middle of their formation. Peterson raised an eyebrow. That's suicide, Captain. Not for the Defiant, Rodriguez countered. Chief Walsh, explain the quantum disruption field. Chief Engineer Tony Walsh, a stocky man with calloused hands and a perpetual 5 o'clock shadow, stepped forward. The Defiant's hull contains thousands of quantum entanglement nodes that, when activated, create a disruptive field around the ship. The field can temporarily neutralize certain energy-based weapon systems. Like Zephyrian plasma cannons, Harrison added. Exactly, Walsh confirmed. And Dr. Helen Carter has been fine-tuning the system for the past month. Dr. Helen Carter, the ship's quantum weapons specialist, nodded. Her silver-streaked hair was pulled back in a tight bun, her expression confident. The field isn't perfect. Sustained fire will eventually break through, but it should give us the edge we need for a surprise attack. What about our own offensive capabilities? Peterson asked. We've got 2 primary systems, Walsh explained. Quantum-phased kinetic penetrators and the adaptive AI targeting system. Lieutenant Kate Adams, the Defiant's navigator, joined the conversation. I've calculated a precision FTL jump that will place us directly in the center of their formation. The momentary confusion should give us a critical advantage. Harrison turned to Admiral Peterson. This is our chance to prove Earth doesn't need Zephyrian protection. If we succeed, other Alliance members might reconsider their positions. Peterson studied the tactical projections, his expression grave. The risk is enormous, but so is the potential reward. After a long moment, he nodded. Very well. You have authorization to engage. Captain Rodriguez saluted. We won't let Earth down, Admiral. As the conference ended, Harrison gazed out at the glittering expanse of Nexus Prime through the viewport. Somewhere among those shimmering structures, Zephyrian leaders were confidently planning Earth subjugation, unaware that their prey was about to become the predator. The Defiance bridge hummed with tense energy as the final preparations for battle were completed. Captain Rodriguez stood at the command station, reviewing the tactical display one last time. "All systems are go, Captain," Chief Walsh reported from engineering. "Quantum disruption field is primed and ready." Dr. Carter's voice came over the comm. "Weapons systems online, kinetic penetrators loaded and charged." Lieutenant Adams sat at the navigation console, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. "FTL jump coordinates locked in. Ready on your command." Rodriguez took a deep breath. "All hands. Battle stations. We drop out of FTL in 30 seconds." Throughout the ship, crew members secured equipment and manned their stations. In the engine room, Walsh oversaw the quantum processors that powered the ship's systems, while Dr. Carter monitored the weapons array from her lab. 15 seconds, Adams announced, her voice steady despite the tension. Rodriguez addressed the crew over the ship-wide comm. "Remember your training. Remember what we're fighting for. The Zephyrians think they're springing a trap on us. Let's show them who's really being hunted today." 5 seconds, Adams called out. 4, 3, 2, 1. The Defiant dropped out of FTL space with pinpoint precision, materializing in the heart of the Zephyrian ambush. For a critical few seconds, the enemy fleet remained motionless, their sensors struggling to process the unexpected appearance of their target in the worst possible position. "Quantum disruption field active," Walsh shouted over the comm. "Target the nearest destroyer," Rodriguez ordered. "Fire kinetic penetrators." The Defiant's main weapons roared to life, launching hyper-accelerated tungsten rods that tore through the first Zephyrian vessel's shields and hull before the enemy could react. The destroyer, identified as the Stellar Wrath, erupted in a cascade of explosions as its power core destabilized. The remaining Zephyrian ships recovered quickly, surrounding the Defiant and opening fire with their plasma cannons. Brilliant streams of energy crashed against the quantum field surrounding the Earth vessel. "Field holding at 87%, Walsh reported as the ship shuddered under the assault. Lieutenant Tucker monitored the enemy communications. "They're confused, Captain. Their weapons aren't having the expected effect." "Let's add to their confusion," Rodriguez replied. "Adams, evasive pattern Delta. Dr. Carter, target their lead cruiser." The Defiant pivoted with surprising agility for its size, dancing between streams of plasma fire as its kinetic penetrators lashed out at the second target, the Night's Edge. The Zephyrian cruiser's shields collapsed under the barrage, and a precisely aimed shot ruptured its bridge, sending it spinning out of control. "Two down," Rodriguez announced grimly. The Zephyrian fleet adjusted their tactics, concentrating their fire on specific sections of the Defiant's hull. "Field weakening in Section 3, Walsh warned, diverting power to compensate." The ship rocked violently as a plasma bolt broke through, scorching the outer hull. "Minor damage to Deck 4, reported Lieutenant Tucker. "No casualties." Dr. Carter's voice came over the comm. "Captain, I've analyzed their firing patterns. Their weapons are adaptive. They're learning how to penetrate our field." Rodriguez nodded. "Then we need to end this quickly. Walsh, route emergency power to the quantum processors. Adams, bring us alongside the Zephyrian flagship." The Defiant surged forward, its quantum field flickering as it absorbed concentrated enemy fire. 3 Zephyrian cruisers moved to intercept, but Adams navigated through their formation with precision that seemed impossible for a ship of the Defiant's size. "Targeting the flagship," Dr. Carter confirmed. "Kinetic penetrators locked." "Fire everything we've got," Rodriguez ordered. The Defiant unleashed its full arsenal, hammering the Zephyrian flagship with dozens of kinetic penetrators. The enemy vessel's advanced shields buckled under the onslaught, and secondary explosions rippled along its hull as critical systems failed. "Their flagship is crippled," Tucker reported with barely contained excitement. "The rest of the fleet is falling into disarray." Two more Zephyrian vessels moved to protect their flagship, only to be caught in the Defiant's crossfire. One lost its propulsion systems and drifted helplessly. The other suffered catastrophic reactor damage and had to be abandoned by its crew. "Field integrity down to 30%, Walsh warned. "We can't take much more punishment." Rodriguez studied the tactical display. 6 Zephyrian ships had been destroyed or disabled, while the remaining 5 were regrouping at the edge of the system. "They're retreating," Tucker announced incredulously. "The Zephyrian fleet is actually retreating." A cheer erupted across the bridge. Rodriguez allowed herself a small smile before addressing the crew. "Well done, everyone. But our mission isn't complete. Adams, set course for Earth. Maximum speed. Walsh, begin repairs on the quantum field. We need to be ready in case they come back with reinforcements." As the Defiant accelerated away from the battlefield, leaving behind the wreckage of the once mighty Zephyrian fleet, Rodriguez opened a secure channel to Earth. "Admiral Peterson, this is Captain Rodriguez. The Defiant has engaged and defeated the Zephyrian ambush force in Kepler 442. 6 enemy vessels destroyed or disabled, 5 in retreat. We've sustained moderate damage but remain fully operational." There was a moment of silence before Peterson's stunned voice replied, "Confirmed, Captain. That's extraordinary. Return to Earth immediately for debriefing and repairs." Rodriguez ended the transmission and gazed at the tactical display, where the retreating Zephyrian ships were now just distant points of light. "They thought we were primitive," she murmured. "They'll never make that mistake again." News of the battle spread quickly throughout the galaxy. On Zephyria Prime, the capital world of the Zephyrian Empire, Emperor Zoltk received the report of the defeat with cold fury. "Impossible," he hissed, his translucent skin darkening to an ominous shade of violet. "One primitive Earth vessel defeated 12 of our warships?" The messenger, a junior officer who had drawn the unfortunate duty of delivering the news, kept his eyes downcast. "The reports are confirmed, Your Eminence. The Earth ship employed technologies we have not encountered before. Our weapons were less effective than anticipated." Emperor Zoltk rose from his crystalline throne, towering over the messenger. "Supreme Admiral Vexathari assured me that Earth posed no threat, that their technology was generations behind ours. The Supreme Admiral is currently organizing a response fleet. Your Eminence, he believes the battle was an anomaly that cost us 6 capital ships and humiliated our empire before the entire alliance." Zoltk swept his arm across a nearby console, sending it crashing to the floor. "This will not stand. Earth has revealed itself as a threat to our dominance." The Emperor strode to the command center adjacent to the throne room, where military officials scrambled to attention. "Accelerate production of the Dreadnought Apocalypse," he ordered. "I want it operational within 3 months, not 6. The project director paled. "Your Eminence, we're still testing the quantum singularity core. Accelerating the timeline could lead to instability." "I don't want excuses," Zoltk snapped. "I want results. Earth has challenged us directly. We will respond with overwhelming force." He activated the holographic display, showing the massive superweapon under construction in the secretive Vortex Nebula facility. The Dreadnought Apocalypse was the Empire's most ambitious military project, a planet-killing vessel that dwarfed everything else in their fleet. "Once operational, the Dreadnought will render Earth's defenses meaningless," the Emperor declared. "They will beg for protectorate status before we turn their world to ash." While the Zephyrian Empire reeled from its unexpected defeat, the Defiant began a series of hit-and-run operations against Zephyrian supply lines and outposts. Earth's leadership had recognized that a direct confrontation with the full might of the Empire would be suicidal. Instead, they adopted a strategy of asymmetric warfare, striking where the enemy was weakest and disappearing before reinforcements could arrive. Captain Rodriguez stood in the Defiant's tactical room, addressing her senior officers. Our next target is the Zephyrian supply depot in the Arcturus sector. Intelligence suggests it contains quantum processors essential for their fleet's targeting systems. Lieutenant Tucker brought up the intelligence reports. Security is minimal. They don't expect attacks this deep in their territory. If we can capture these processors intact, they could significantly enhance our own systems. What about civilian personnel? Asked Dr. Carter. The facility is automated, Tucker replied. No civilian casualties expected. Rodriguez nodded. Good. We launch in 6 hours. Adams, plot a course that keeps us hidden in the nebula until the last possible moment. Over the next 2 months, the Defiant conducted 17 successful raids against Zephyrian targets. Each operation further demonstrated Earth's unexpected capabilities and strained the Empire's resources as they were forced to divert warships to protect previously secure facilities. Meanwhile, news of the Zephyrian defeat spread throughout the galaxy. Species that had long chafed under Imperial dominance began to question whether the mighty Empire was as invincible as it claimed. On planets like Karak 7 and throughout the Corvash Confederation, protests and minor rebellions erupted, forcing the Zephyrians to spread their military even thinner. During a particularly daring raid on a Zephyrian research station, the Defiant's crew discovered critical information about the Dreadnought Apocalypse. Agent Ryan Murphy, an Earth operative who had infiltrated the Zephyrian Military Engineering Corps, transmitted detailed schematics of the superweapon before his cover was compromised. Admiral Peterson convened an emergency meeting with Earth's Defense Council to review the intelligence. The Dreadnought is nearly complete, he reported grimly. Once operational, it will have the capability to destroy an entire planet from orbit. Can our defenses stop it? Asked the Secretary of Defense. Peterson shook his head. Not directly, but according to these schematics, the Dreadnought's power comes from a contained quantum singularity. If destabilized, it could create a chain reaction that would destroy the vessel. And how would we destabilize it? The President asked. Dr. Carter believes the quantum resonance beam she's been developing could disrupt the magnetic field containing the singularity. Peterson explained. But to use it, the Defiant would need to get extremely close to the Dreadnought. A suicide mission, the Secretary said quietly. Potentially, Peterson acknowledged. But we may not have a choice. Intelligence suggests the Dreadnought will target Earth for its first demonstration. The President's expression was solemn. How soon can the Defiant be ready? Captain Rodriguez reports they can depart within 48 hours. The quantum processors they captured in the Arcturus raid have been integrated into their systems, enhancing their AI capabilities significantly. And the location of the Dreadnought? Hidden deep in the Vortex Nebula. Peterson replied. It's a treacherous region. Electromagnetic storms, dense gas clouds, gravitational anomalies. Perfect cover for a secret weapon. The President nodded slowly. Very well. Authorize the mission, and may God help them all. On the Defiant, preparations for the most dangerous mission yet were underway. The ship had been retrofitted with the captured Zephyrian quantum processors, creating a hybrid AI system that combined Earth's adaptive algorithms with Zephyrian processing power. In engineering, Chief Walsh supervised the installation of additional cooling systems for the quantum processors. These babies run hot, he explained to his team. If they overheat during combat, our targeting systems will fail. Dr. Carter worked tirelessly in her lab, making final adjustments to the quantum resonance beam. The wavelength has to be exact, she muttered as she calibrated the device. Too broad, and it won't penetrate the Dreadnought's shields. Too narrow, and it won't destabilize the containment field. On the bridge, Lieutenant Adams calculated the most direct approach through the Vortex Nebula. The nebula's electromagnetic interference will blind their long-range sensors, she explained to Captain Rodriguez. But it will affect our navigation too. We'll be flying partially blind. Rodriguez nodded. We only need to get close enough for Dr. Carter's beam to work. After that, We'll have minutes at most to clear the blast radius. Lieutenant Tucker approached with the latest intelligence update. Agent Murphy managed to transmit one final message before he was captured. The Dreadnought's weapon systems are operational, but they're still conducting final tests on the propulsion and targeting systems. So it can't chase us, but it can shoot us down, Rodriguez summarized. Not ideal, but better than nothing. As the hour of departure approached, Rodriguez addressed her crew over the ship-wide comm. In a few hours, we will embark on the most critical mission in Earth's history. The Zephyrian Empire believes their dreadnought apocalypse will force our surrender. They are wrong. She paused, looking around at the determined faces of her bridge crew. We are outgunned and outnumbered. The odds are against us. But the Defiant has already accomplished the impossible once. Today, we will do it again. For Earth. For freedom. For all species who live under Zephyrian oppression. A chorus of cheers echoed throughout the ship. Rodriguez nodded to Adams. Take us out, Lieutenant. Maximum speed to the Vortex Nebula. The Defiant slipped away from Earth's orbital defense perimeter, accelerating rapidly before jumping to FTL. Their destination, the heart of enemy territory, and a confrontation with the deadliest weapon ever created. The Vortex Nebula lived up to its name, a swirling maelstrom of purple and gold gases, shot through with electrical discharges that illuminated the dense clouds like distant lightning. The Defiant dropped out of FTL at the nebula's edge, its sensors immediately struggling to penetrate the electromagnetic interference. Visibility limited to 3,000 kilometers. Tucker reported from the sensor station. Radiation levels rising, but within acceptable parameters. Captain Rodriguez studied the navigational display. Adams, take us in. 1/4 impulse power. Aye, Captain, Adams responded, her hands steady on the controls as she guided the ship into the nebula's outer layers. The view through the bridge viewport transformed as they entered the nebula proper. Swirling clouds of ionized gas enveloped the ship, occasionally parting to reveal breathtaking vistas of newborn stars and cosmic debris. It's beautiful, Carter whispered from her station. And deadly, Walsh added over the comm. Those electrical discharges could fry our systems if they hit us directly. Rodriguez remained focused on the mission. Tucker, any sign of the Dreadnought? Nothing yet, Captain. But according to Agent Murphy's information, it should be in the central region, approximately 30 minutes ahead at our current speed. The Defiant continued its cautious advance, navigating around dense gas pockets and gravitational anomalies. Twice they were forced to alter course to avoid massive electrical storms that would have overwhelmed even their advanced shielding. Captain, Tucker called suddenly. I'm detecting a massive power signature ahead. It's partially obscured by the nebula, but the energy readings are off the scale. Rodriguez leaned forward. On screen. The main display flickered, showing a distorted image through the nebula's interference. As they watched, the gas clouds parted momentarily, revealing a colossal structure in the distance. The Dreadnought, Rodriguez breathed. Even partially obscured, the Zephyrian superweapon was an awesome sight. It dwarfed the Defiant like a whale beside a minnow, its crystalline hull gleaming with internal energy. Construction vessels swarmed around it, making final adjustments to its exterior weapons arrays. Magnify, Rodriguez ordered. The image zoomed in, showing the Dreadnought's forward section, a massive concave dish that presumably housed the planet-killing weapon. Any sign they've detected us? Rodriguez asked. Tucker shook his head. Negative, Captain. The nebula's interference is masking our approach. How close do we need to get for the quantum resonance beam to be effective? Rodriguez asked Carter. 5,000 kilometers, minimum, Carter replied. Any further and the nebula will disperse the beam too much. Rodriguez nodded. Adams, bring us to within 6,000 kilometers. Then hold position behind that large gas cloud. Walsh, divert all non-essential power to the shields and Dr. Carter's beam. Aye, Captain, came the responses. The Defiant crept closer to its massive target, using the nebula's natural features as cover. When they reached the designated position, Adams expertly maneuvered the ship into the shadow of a dense gas formation that concealed them from the dreadnought's sensors. "Position secured," Adams reported. "We're holding at 5,127 kilometers from target." Rodriguez turned to Carter. "Doctor, is the beam ready?" Carter nodded, her face tense with concentration. "Charging now. We'll have one shot at this, Captain. The beam will drain most of our power reserves." "Understood. Walsh, prepare for emergency power to engines immediately after the beam fires. We'll need everything we've got to outrun the blast." "Working on it," Walsh replied. "But I'm reading unusual energy fluctuations from the dreadnought. I think they're powering up their main weapon." Tucker's console beeped urgently. "Captain, the interference is clearing between us and the target. They're using some kind of energy field to disperse the nebula gases." On the view screen, they watched as an expanding sphere of clear space formed around the dreadnought, pushing back the colorful gases of the nebula. "They're preparing for a weapons test," Tucker realized. "And once that field expands far enough—" "They'll see us," Rodriguez finished. "How long until Dr. Carter's beam is ready?" 30 seconds, Carter replied, her fingers flying over her console. The clear zone continued to expand toward their position, the edge of the nebula receding rapidly. 20 seconds, Carter counted down. "They've spotted us," Tucker shouted, as alarms blared across his console. "Zephyrian targeting systems locked on." "Evasive maneuvers," Rodriguez ordered. "Adams, keep us moving but stay within Dr. Carter's firing range." The Defiant lurched sideways as Adams executed a series of tight maneuvers. Beams of concentrated energy lanced out from the dreadnought's secondary weapons arrays, slicing through the space the Earthship had occupied moments before. 10 seconds, Carter reported, her voice strained. A glancing hit rocked the ship, sending crew members tumbling. "Shields at 60%, Walsh called out. "Direct hit to our port nacelle." 5 seconds, Carter continued. The dreadnought's main weapon began to glow with ominous energy, a swirling vortex of power forming in the concave dish at its bow. "They're targeting Earth's coordinates," Tucker warned. 2 seconds. 1. Firing now. Carter activated the quantum resonance beam. A brilliant blue-white beam erupted from the Defiant's main emitter, cutting through the cleared space between the ships. It struck the dreadnought directly in its center, where Agent Murphy's intelligence had indicated the quantum singularity core was housed. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, the energy gathering in the dreadnought's main weapon flickered and dissipated. Lights across the massive vessel began to fail in cascading patterns. "Direct hit!" Carter exulted. "The beam is disrupting their containment field." The dreadnought's hull began to buckle inward around its central section, as if being crushed by an invisible force. "The singularity is collapsing," Carter explained, reading from her instruments. "When it goes critical—" "Everyone hold on," Rodriguez shouted. "Adams, get us out of here, maximum speed." The Defiant's engines roared to life as Adams executed a sharp turn away from the doomed superweapon. Behind them, the dreadnought structure continued to implode around its unstable core. "Estimated time to critical failure?" Rodriguez asked. 2 minutes, 17 seconds, Carter replied. "But that's just a best guess. It could be sooner." "We need more speed," Rodriguez urged. "Walsh, can you give us anything else?" "I'm rerouting power from life support on the lower decks," Walsh responded. "That should buy us another 5% thrust." The Defiant surged forward, racing to escape the impending explosion. On the rear view screen, they watched as the dreadnought's massive form continued to collapse, energy discharges now crackling across its surface. 1 minute to minimum safe distance, Adams reported tensely. "We're not going to make it," Tucker muttered. Rodriguez's expression remained determined. "We haven't failed yet, Lieutenant. Keep—" Her words were cut off as the dreadnought finally succumbed to the collapsing singularity at its heart. A blinding flash erupted from the vessel, followed by an expanding shockwave of energy and debris. "Brace for impact!" Rodriguez shouted. The shockwave hit the Defiant with tremendous force, sending it tumbling through the nebula. Warning alarms blared across every station as systems failed, and hull breaches were reported on multiple decks. Rodriguez pulled herself back into her chair as emergency lighting bathed the bridge in red. "Report!" "Engines offline," Adams called out. "Stabilizers failing. We're adrift." "Multiple hull breaches on decks 3 through 7, Tucker added. "Emergency force fields holding, but power reserves are at critical levels." "Casualties?" Rodriguez asked, dreading the answer. "Reports still coming in," Tucker replied. "But no fatalities reported yet. Several serious injuries in engineering." Before Rodriguez could respond, a new alert sounded from Tucker's console. "Captain, I'm detecting multiple ships entering the nebula," he reported, his voice tight with tension. "Signatures match. Zephyrian warships." Rodriguez closed her eyes briefly. They had destroyed the dreadnought, but at the cost of leaving themselves defenseless. "How many?" "At least 20 vessels," Tucker replied grimly. "First wave will reach our position in approximately 3 minutes." The bridge fell silent as the reality of their situation sank in. They had accomplished their mission, but it appeared they would not live to celebrate their victory. "Captain," Tucker said suddenly, his voice changing, "I'm detecting additional ships entering the nebula from the opposite direction. They're Earth vessels. The expedition fleet has arrived." Rodriguez turned to the view screen in disbelief as it flickered back to life, showing a formation of Earth warships cutting through the nebula toward their position. Behind them came vessels of unfamiliar design, ships from the Corvash Confederation, the Zarian Republic, and other species that had suffered under Zephyrian rule. "We're being hailed," Tucker reported, a grin spreading across his face. "On screen," Rodriguez ordered. Admiral Peterson's face appeared on the display. "Captain Rodriguez, it looks like you could use some assistance." Rodriguez laughed, despite the chaos around her. "Your timing is impeccable, Admiral. The dreadnought has been destroyed, but we're dead in the water." "We received your telemetry data throughout the mission," Peterson explained. "When we saw you'd succeeded, we launched the counteroffensive. Earth isn't alone anymore. Captain, the Zephyrian Empire's actions have united half the galaxy against them." New alerts sounded across Tucker's console. "The Zephyrian fleet is withdrawing. Captain, they're breaking off their approach." "They're outnumbered for once," Peterson observed. "And without their superweapon, they've lost their advantage. Prepare for rescue operations. Captain, let's bring your crew home." As Earth and Allied vessels surrounded the damaged Defiant, Rodriguez looked around at her exhausted but triumphant bridge crew. "We did it," she said quietly. "Against all odds, we did it." The following morning, on Zephyria Prime, Emperor Zalthk faced the grim reality of his empire's situation. The dreadnought was destroyed. Multiple systems had declared independence. The Alliance Council had convened an emergency session to address Zephyrian aggression. "How did this happen?" he demanded of his advisors. "How did one primitive Earth vessel bring us to the brink of collapse?" No one dared answer directly. Finally, Supreme Admiral Vexathari stepped forward, his once proud bearing now hesitant. "We underestimated them, Your Eminence," he admitted. "We saw their crude designs and assumed technological inferiority. We failed to recognize innovation when it didn't match our expectations." The Emperor's skin darkened with rage. "And now, what options remain?" Vexathari's response was bitter. "The Alliance fleet has blockaded our major shipyards. Rebellions have erupted on 7 worlds. Our supply lines are in shambles." He paused. "The High Command recommends unconditional surrender." The word hung in the air like poison. Zalthk stared at his admiral in disbelief. But as reports continued to pour in detailing the extent of the disaster, hundreds of war stations lost, thousands of ships destroyed or captured, the truth became undeniable. The Zephyrian Empire, which had stood unchallenged for centuries, had been brought to its knees by a single Earth vessel that they had mocked as primitive. 6 months later, Admiral Jake Harrison, newly promoted after the battle, stood on the observation deck of Nexus Prime, watching as the refitted Defiant docked alongside vessels from a dozen different species. The Alliance had been transformed, no longer dominated by Zephyrian influence, but genuinely cooperative, with Earth playing a central role in the new power structure. Ambassador Morgan joined him at the viewport. "Quite a sight, isn't it? 6 months ago, they laughed at our ship. Now they're studying it." Harrison nodded, observing alien engineers examining the Defiant with undisguised curiosity. "They've learned an important lesson. Crude doesn't mean inferior. Earth has changed too," Morgan noted. "We entered space hoping for peaceful exploration, and our first major encounter was a war. A war we didn't start," Harrison reminded her. "And one we finished decisively." Morgan smiled. "True enough. The Galactic Security Council meets tomorrow to finalize the treaty. Earth will have a permanent seat. And the Zephyrians, confined to their home system until they demonstrate a genuine commitment to peaceful coexistence. It will be generations before they rebuild what they lost." Harrison watched as a team of Zerian engineers examined the Defiant's quantum disruption nodes, with expressions of wonder on their alien faces. "You know what the strangest part is?" he said. "If they hadn't mocked us, if they had simply accepted our petition for membership, none of this would have happened. Their empire would still be intact." "Pride," Morgan replied simply. "It blinds us to possibilities, makes us underestimate those we consider beneath us." Harrison nodded, thinking of the journey that had brought them here, from the humiliation at the conference table to the desperate battle in the Vortex Nebula. "Let's hope it's a lesson none of us forgets," he said, turning away from the viewport. "The universe is too vast for any species to claim superiority. There's always someone with a different approach, a different perspective." "A crude-looking ship with unexpected capabilities," Morgan suggested with a smile. "Exactly," Harrison agreed. "The future belongs to those who can recognize value, even when it doesn't match their preconceptions." As they walked away, the Defiant gleamed in the docking bay, its battle scars now badges of honor, a testament to the day when Earth's prototype warship made an empire suffer for its arrogance.